It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. The show I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards is The Outer Realm, and that's in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which has millions of listeners each week. They are well known for their laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, folklore, and anything else that would be deemed outside the realm of normal. Michelle is an international public figure who has spent the last 2 decades working in the international paranormal community in research and media. Amelia is a remote viewing medium with 10 years of working with missing children, as well as cold and active murder cases. So go to podcastawards.com to nominate The Outer Realm in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. That's podcastawards.com. It's super easy. So just please take a moment and get out and go vote.
Welcome to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are actually pre-recording here on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who have been with us from the very beginning to bring you all of this amazing content every Wednesday and Thursday evening. So thank you, Folgers. You make it all possible. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, who is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that good music can be found. And we thank him for his sponsorship. And he is the voice and music that you hear for our intro and our outro. So thank you, thank you. Okay, in the news, we've got the Podcast Awards. As you see, we're pumping this and pumping this. We've got 5 shows nominated here on the network. You can find us under Best Female Hosted Podcast and the Adam Curry category, and that is at podcastawards.com. So please go check it out. Of course, you see I am solo. Amelia is tending to some family situations that are going on right now. So we wish her and her family well, and hopefully she'll be back with us sooner rather than later. Hopefully she'll be in chat tonight, because as you know, we do a pre-record. We are in chat getting your comments up there for our guests to see when they can catch the archive the next day. Since they are all the way in the UK, they are about 5 hours ahead of us, so it makes it a bit tough. So tonight we welcome back Shawn Williamson to The Outer Realm, of course, and he's going to be joined by Nathan Newman. And they're going to be debuting Shawn's new website today, which is live, by the way. You can pre-order his book, Questus, which is what we're going to be discussing this evening. And it's really pretty exciting, and I'm really looking forward to what they're going to say about it, because Shawn has been giving us little tidbits now for quite some time. So this is it. Tonight is the night, guys. So a little bit about Nathan. He's a creative producer and award-winning director who has partnered with Shawn to launch Questus. Since 2005, Nathan's work has spanned across, or I guess has spanned, AAA video game development and independent filmmaking. He is also a former third-generation Jehovah's Witness who became fascinated with mysticism after noting that esoteric concepts were woven into the religion he was raised in. And of course, Shawn, who has been on the show several times, is a UK-based writer and sculptor who was mentored by the legendary writer, filmmaker, and Knights Templar historian, Dr. Andrew Sinclair, which he has spoken about. Keen for adventure at the age of 17, he took up the offer from his sea captain father to sail the Great Lakes of North America. Shawn's never lost the taste for adventure and has since then spent time traveling the world while researching ancient civilizations, teaching stone carving as a master stonemason, and writing, of course. So, as we know, like I said, Shawn has been on the show before, and boy, we've gotten bits and pieces of this, and it's just been like, come on, just trying to pry a little bit more every single time. So tonight we're going to get everything. And again, have your questions ready. The guys are definitely going to be able to check this all out tomorrow when they go to the Outer Realm page, or check out any of the streams that we'll be airing on this evening, which are going to be the usual. We always, find us on the Outer Realm YouTube. Give us some love, subscribe, same with our page, like her up, and follow us. So as we wait for the guests to both arrive, I'm just waiting on Shawn, so I'm going to bring Nathan in. Hello. How are you? Can you hear me? No? Say something. I can hear you.
I have audio.
Yes, you do. It's like, hello. So we are live. We are in record mode live. We're just waiting on Shawn. So hopefully he'll catch his email, and I may just have to send it to him. 1 second here. Maybe simplify things for him a little bit. Wait, maybe not. There he is. The man himself. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Great, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Been looking forward to the show here. So, okay, I'm just trying to see. Nope, this is apparently as good as it's going to get with the three of us. Okay. Hold on. Back over here. Nope, that's not what I wanted either. I have to apologize. This thing is just sort of doing its own thing because I've got your video queued up to go. So it's just like, nope, not going to let you do this option. So anyway, how are you guys? Good?
Yeah, great. Fabulous. Excited with the launch of Questus, and we've been working together, Nathan and myself, today. So yeah, all good.
Big day for you guys. The website launches, the store launches, the book launches. This is very exciting. Everything is posted, on the pages. So I'm sure that people are like, what's this all about? And they'll chime in this evening. So I'd like to start. I mean, Shawn, you've been, sort of giving us teasers on Questus now for a few months, and you've made mention of Nathan. Why don't you, if you can, lead us in a little bit as to what brought you to Nathan? Why was he your choice? And then we're going to bring Nathan in, and he can tell us a little bit about his side of things and who he's all about.
Well, I met Nathan through mutual interest, spiritual interest, shall we say, at the Gorton Monastery, and we connected, and we found that we got similar purpose and ideas for the future. And I was amazed at what Nathan was doing, and he liked the way that I was approaching subject matter as a writer. So it was a fabulous meeting of minds, and we kind of just dovetail in. I think that's it, really. Yeah.
Oh, all right. I like it. So it was just basically meant to be. Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your part of the project?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I met Shawn, I was just really struck by his depth of vision, essentially, and the reason for that is for the last 2 decades or so, I've worked across media and in various capacities, Part of that was in developing AAA video games. Part of that was in advertising and filmmaking. And when Shawn told me about the book, I just had to read it. It was, contained some themes I thought were right up my street. And the name of the book was Questus. And I think it's fair to say we both realized we're on a little bit of a quest to find some interesting things to do as well at the same time. So it was really exciting to read Shawn's book for the first time, and I started to see this sort of similarity in how he thinks about carving stone and how he finds a vision inside of stone when he works with that material. And I could see that level of sculpting in his language and how he told the story in a very direct and interesting way. And I just thought, we have to do something with this. And when Shawn first told me about the book, he said, I've written it because I want to make a video game.
Yes.
So it made perfect sense to think about that challenge and what we could do together and how we could put together a plan of attack.
I like it. So tell us a little bit about your background with respects to, I was reading your bio off to everyone, and you're a third generation Jehovah's Witness. Do you think that had a way of piquing that interest, the mysticism behind Shawn's background and his story?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Yeah, it was. So when you grow up in a group like that and leave it, there's a lot of changes. There's a lot of shift in how you see the world, and you have to sort of try and understand the world in a new way, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a process. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And along that journey, I noticed that there was a lot of sort of esoteric subjects inside of the beliefs that I'd been raised with, which I didn't realize until I sort of looked back at it and try to understand, what had been taught since I was young.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a long list of components there. Like as an example, the organization that creates all this printed material is called the Watchtower Society, which is something that not a lot of people know about. And some of the very early publications from the late 1800s have the picture of a tower on there, and essentially all the symbolism from the tower card and the tarot deck, which in itself was kind of interesting to see. And people who were, in that organization and in that religion don't necessarily make those connections.
Right.
The information that they're fed is told to sort of stay away from these subjects. And as a kid I was interested in card tricks and doing card tricks and things, and even that was kind of frowned upon. We had to kind of be quiet about that because that could cause some problems.
Right.
So the more I looked at the religion, I saw that end time prophecies were taken by the original guy who started the organization, a gentleman called Charles Taze Russell. He'd calculated that from the measurements of the Great Pyramid in Giza, which was based on someone else's work. I also noticed that they were very, as an organization, through all their materials, they're very focused on Solomon's Temple, as an example. And there's a lot of language in there around, very particular language as well, which I kind of then recognized from some other places, around describing a creator as the universal sovereign, or the great architect of the universe. And I thought, that sounds like I've read that somewhere else. So there was all these similarities, which generally people don't tend to think about or sort of understand. And even I don't understand it, but it was certainly part of me wanting to dip more into some of these subjects and try and understand the greater context behind some of these expressions and what they mean. And the most surprising thing all the way through to modern day, because if you look at the 130-year history of the organization, at the very beginning, there was that symbolism and it was kind of phased out. And but it's interesting to see that throughout the 130 years, there've been all these pieces of symbolism sprinkled in throughout that time, all the way through to something which seems so subtle, but to me quite interesting, which is that the UK headquarters for the organization was moved in recent years, and it was built on Temple Farm, which perhaps contained some Templar relics many years ago.
Wow.
And I thought, that's really interesting. You've got
Isn't
these
it?
little you got these little things from many years ago that seem to connect all the way through to a real estate acquisition just in the last 5 or 10 years. So I kind of color all this stuff as interesting, but it's certainly been part of me being on my little quest to try and understand, what I was raised inside of and what I've left behind, and trying to understand my own place in the world based on those experiences.
Wow, no kidding. Synchronicities. I love the synchronicity behind it. So what I'd like to do is play the, as I put, an alert, teaser alert, to let everybody listen to that. And then you guys can go on from there, though any direction you want to go in. How does that sound?
Fabulous.
Fabulous.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Can't wait.
So I'm going to bring her up. Bear with me, guys. I've got to go in here and, oh boy, manning the fort. Here we go.
I'm Shawn Williamson, and I'm a sculptor and author. My mentor was Andrew Sinclair, a prolific writer and historian and a fabulous filmmaker. Andrew Sinclair was the main historian on the Knights Templar, in my mind, of all time. I was his researcher for several years, and as such was able to learn a lot about the history of the Knights Templar. I've inherited his research and, of course, other things that he found which are deemed sacred. Questus is a modern-day Templar universe spanning books, films, and video games. The world is facing a huge spiritual crisis, an industrial tech impost, shall we say. Many people are lost. Questus is a way of taking the onlooker into another realm. It's an inner journey for each person that goes there. By being in this realm, like the main character in the book, Angus MacWilliam, we are hoping to be able to help people resolve inner issues as a result of what's happening now in the world. Questus is a book founded on the real history and legends of the Templars. Angus MacWilliam is a Grail Knight who doesn't know it. He's woken up in a modern day world and learns of another realm where he is destined to travel to. He represents the soul of humanity in many ways. His soul quests for a better world, but he is hampered by the mechanisms of daily existence. It's perceived that he has a neurological issue. That isn't the case. That is the calling card, the bell ringing for him to go to this other world, to resolve not just his own problems, but the problems of the world. The antagonists in Questus are a group of industrialists that are hell-bent on destroying the planet. Their name is the New Babylonians. They put money and their own greed before God, and as such are referred to as the enemies of God. Angus MacWilliam and his crew have come together in this other universe to stop their plans and restore the rule of God back to the planet. The journey actually began in 2018 when I went to Chile in South America, and I was involved in rowing around islands, finding information with the Calbuco volcano looming in the background. So it was a period of enlightenment and spiritual change for me as well. My mentor and friend Andrew Sinclair died in 2019, and he gave me something. He gave me the wooden grail bowl that he discovered in Rosslyn Chapel. That was the key, not just for me, but I think for everybody that goes into this universe will see its true meaning. I would say it's possible to enter these realms through our own imagination. And this is where I want Questus to take you. Questus is a state of mind. It took me into another dimension, I think, to create this world where magnificent things happen. We're inviting you to be part of that world. So as a stonemason, I'm creating 3D, almost medieval products, including a stone sword to inspire our video gaming team. Together, we can make the Questus universe a reality. Proceeds from book 1 will be invested in accelerating the launch of the book, creating an audiobook, and creating a small prototype of the Questus video game, which will help us to reach new audiences. The book is already written. You'll receive the book ahead of everyone else. We are self-publishing and will be in complete control of the book. We will be releasing softback and hardback copies. We've also crafted and made available a range of limited edition collectibles. In that universe, that other world, together we will rectify maybe our own problems, but more importantly, the problems of existence and the world today. That's where I will see you. I will see you in this realm, in Questus. Thank you for your gracious and godly support. Join Questus. Participate in the adventure.
All I could say is, wow. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's fantastic. Just had me hanging. I want the video game. So, wow. Okay, Shawn, take it.
Yeah, there's a lot of information to cover, but I figured the best way forward was to write it as a novel, because you can do more in that way. You can help people understand what's happening in reality easier in the form of a myth, even though a lot of elements in myths are actually factual. The method of presentation in Questus is almost like a mantra of the written word. How it's worked out like that, I don't know. That's the mysterious element in it. But, I always had a good ability to write, and that was honed in by Dr. Andrew Sinclair, which, of course, Nathan had seen when he got hold of the book, and worked with his colleagues, to examine its potential. And it was a great match to take the Questus story forward. Angus MacWilliam, who's the main character of Questus, he's like us all. He's been through the mill. He's a survivor. He's not perfect, but yet he's chosen to go on this adventure into another universe to rectify problems on the planet. And, one of the first things, or one of the first portals, of course, is Roslin Chapel. Many people think that is one of the purposes of Roslin as well, with its mysterious alignments. It's a
fabulous place. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you've been there, Michelle, and
I'm going to go back. You're going to take me. I want to see it through your eyes. I do.
Yep. Well, and the portal thing that's happening there, and its geophysical alignments to other sacred sites. There's, and you will find out in the book, although I'm not going to give loads away, that it's connected to greater antiquity and temples in the messages of what can happen to the planet if we lose contact with, God, and how that works. And I believe at the moment that the world is in that place. It's very apocalyptic feeling, with a lot of people wondering what's going to happen next. And one of my things is to be able to try and explain these events, but it's done in another world, which of course Angus ends up going to, enters through Roslin and ends up in South America, where the pre-Atlantean and Atlantean investigation starts to happen, and puts him in a situation to go deeper into into his own battle between good and evil that's going on inside him. And of course, the result being, if he achieves that, is his Grail Knight status. But you know, the written word is very powerful. It's very powerful in the Bible, and meter and pace are other ways to enliven the person or the listener into activating the imagination. So in a way, we are, with Questus, doctors of other people's imagination. We are helping people, enable people to start seeing colors instead of black and white through this process. And people are going to be amazed at what happens during this journey.
I agree. And I think it's just in time, because we are in a bit of a predicament right now, I think, with, the planet, the world on average. I think people are experiencing a lot of sadness right now. Let's face it, we're not used to being locked down. We're not used to, the sickness and losing people. I just seem to see it all over social media. You're losing pets, you're losing loved ones, or people are sick, or people are limited. I think this is a great opportunity to escape for a little while and yet relate to your character and the situation. A lot of people have lost faith, while others have gained faith. So almost like you had a premonition of sorts. So
well, yeah, you're bang on there with that. That's a really valid, on point statement. And the ideas, the imagination, it was in like an oyster shell, which Nathan was able to get into, and
Right.
see the potential, and also see the high-powered visualization of the words and how that could translate into other media. I'm not going to talk anything about that tech side of things, because
No.
I'm kind of old school.
Yes.
I'm not, to be honest, I'm not far off one of those telephones with great big things on it, great big numerals to make your phone calls. So I'm not a high-tech person, but Nathan's interested in the imaginative qualities, I think, as well.
Yeah. Well, Nathan, take it away. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I just when I read the book, and just through getting to know Shawn, I'm sure a lot of your listeners and viewers already know that Shawn has a lot of stories. He's done a lot of really interesting things, and if you're not aware of that, check out the about page on ShawnWilliamson.com, and you'll get a little snapshot of some of them, and that's barely 0.5% of all the stories. And I just love the way in which Shawn tackled some really big themes with his book, and in some really unexpected ways, in this blend of a historical fiction with thriller, with that resonance of stuff that is happening in the world right now, was just really quite striking. And I think there's obviously been a lot of shifts in the world over the last couple of years, but for the last 5 years or so, there's been the presence of tech and big tech is something that we've all sort of felt to become more aware of in different ways. And if you think about it, there was the likes of the scandal around Cambridge Analytica There was a book that was published in recent years called The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, which kind of explains itself in the title. Then you have the likes of Edward Snowden's most recent book called Permanent Record, about data collection and how that's relevant to what people that you don't know about you. And then through Silicon Valley, there's been this concept which came through partly through the Social Dilemma documentary, but also through some other sources around big tech essentially looking at how to conduct a race to the bottom of the brainstem. That was the phrase, and that was all oriented around this idea of psychology and neurology and how to create what they call habit-forming products. And there's been, through these means, I think there's been this sort of subtle reality shifting and shifts in behaviors which have taken place. And I think now more than ever, people are more and more switched on to that and very conscious of it. So to have all that complexity and all that kind of difficulty in how the world is constructed right now, and to have it tackled by someone like Shawn and the way in which he's tackled it, I think is just really quite fascinating. It's taking all that seriousness and it's respecting the seriousness of what all those things mean and what's changed in the world, but bringing a very new and vivid vision to what all that stuff means for how the world is constructed and how we think, how our minds work and how they may have been co-opted in some ways, and what we can in turn through creative medium explore around those ideas. And so it's been awesome working with Shawn, and especially someone who he didn't he didn't write the book with a quill. He typed it on a laptop. So he's a little bit savvy for our video calls and whatnot to keep in touch.
No quill.
But when he sees something that he likes and that fits with the vision, man, he gets it straight away. And I really love that about Shawn. It's something that because he is a creative in the sense of his writing and what he does there, but also just the fact that he does kind of does a physical version of what I self-taught myself to do to get into the games industry, which is 3D modeling, which I was doing digitally for years. So to be working with someone who's doing kind of the same thing but in the real world with a chisel and a hammer and being able to do what he does and to do it at the scale that he does it at as well. We've been making miniatures together, but I've seen all of Shawn's other work of these, huge monument-like pieces of rock that he finds
when you can actually cradle
yes
one of his sculptures. We're talking big.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 3 or 4 people could probably fit around some of them.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and it would still be a stretch. It's just really awesome to see those similarities and kind of how he thinks about finding forms and ideas and how I can translate those digitally into these sort of real-time and immersive environments and ways in which we can tell stories.
So essentially, you're going to bring Questus to life.
Yes, very much so. And part of that process is that Shawn. So generally, we create concept art and video games, and it'll all be 2D with digital brushes and whatnot. And one of the things I've been talking with Shawn about a lot, and that he started to do already, is that rather than go onto a screen or onto a piece of paper and draw a bit of concept art, and then we look at that concept art and create something. Instead, Shawn is creating pieces of sculpture out of stone as concept art. Wow. To then feed into how we make the game. So for us, we want to respect that sort of artistic and spatial design component and how Shawn thinks, and look at ways in which we can capture that from the physical world and digitize it to help tell the story of Questus.
I love it. So, Shawn, just how much are you going to actually create? Sounds like a lot of work. Okay, that tells me right there. The big sigh.
Just the important pieces. Okay. We'll fill in the gaps.
Well, the stone is a great magnetic medium. It's. I think we discussed on a previous segment of Outer Realms
Yes.
You know, the BBC had done some tests on, you know, magnetism and how it responds in stone. And they'd actually managed to plug in some kind of speaker system. It's way back in the 80s into a church wall and recorded overnight what they heard, you know, which was thousands and thousands of voices that had been captured somehow, like a magnetic tape in the stone itself.
Fantastic.
So you've got this supernatural element to stone, which I think would translate really well into what, you know, Nathan's expertise is on the video games and stuff, and how he works, and how that could pull in the stone sculpture and carving. I mean, it was recently that I found, I thought there was a solid system there is a solid system in how a cathedral is built, denominations of stonemasons, carvers, sculptors, and then usually a master mason that oversees everything and stuff. And so I was looking at that, and then I found out that there was this particular group of sculptors. They weren't actually called sculptors who worked on Notre Dame, who did all the gargoyles, and apparently they were called imaginators.
Right.
So, or the French version of that, which was quite interesting. That, you know, these gargoyles and protective monsters had come out of the mind of individuals, you know, which I thought was awesome, because, you know, Notre Dame's as good as it gets, really, you know.
It is. It's I've always been fascinated by stone. It has its own frequency. It can absorb energy. It can project energy. You know, people don't realize, especially when you're really open to energy frequencies and vibrations, things of that sort. All you have to do is put your hands on stone, and you can just feel it coming, you know, from the stone. There's a place in the US we've talked about. They call them the singing stones, and people just literally play them like a xylophone, and they all have different sounds. It's crazy. So I know you've told us this story about the cathedral, and no matter how many times, this is the second time I've heard it, I'm still in awe that you probably have thousands of years, hundreds for sure, of just all of this imprinted energy, you know, that the walls have just absorbed.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and that, you know, that product of stone, the ideas behind it, the sculptors, the carvers, the masons, to be able to transfer that information into a high-tech situation through, you know, computer enhancement and stuff. I mean, what a combination. I mean, it's just going to be awesome, and I'm really looking forward to. You saw the little snippets of the experimentation for the video games for Questus, and you know, the landscape that they got from different places. I think particularly the north of Scotland is just incredible. You know, Sinclair castles and stuff, and the way that's all going to be brought together like a technical symphony, if you will. It's going to be mega, absolutely mega.
Oh, I have no doubt. Are you going to, without giving it all away, incorporate that little tidbit of the experiment with the voices in the stone? I think, gosh, he could just really have such an adventure just with that.
Oh yeah, I think sound design is integral. You know, and filmers say it's 50% of the experience, but when it comes to an interactive medium, I think it kind of counts for a lot more, and it's often sort of overlooked. But it's certainly something that we want to work around and see if we can discover some interesting ways of creating the soundscape of the game. As an example, I do have the stone sword that that Shawn has sculpted. It's sitting right next to me if you'd like to see it.
Wow, I'm so
And
jealous.
it does make some interesting sounds as well, which could very well inspire the sounds that the sword Angus uses in Questus might make.
Interesting, Nathan. Yeah.
So here is the stone sword.
Beautiful.
It's a little bit big.
Just a little.
Quite heavy as well.
Too, I imagine.
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love
but
it.
it's beautiful.
I love the symbolism. Is that an inscription? Like the symbols on the very top. I mean, we have the cross as you go down.
Yeah. Would you like to talk through it, Shawn, just while I hold it?
Yeah, that's. I'm not quite sure exactly why I carved it, but it's the name of God in Hebrew.
Love it.
On the cross guard of the sword. And then, of course, you've got the handle, which is based off one that was discovered in Scotland.
Yes.
And then the pommel, which is old style Templar cross, because of course Angus's has been previously with the Templars, and he then becomes a Quester, which is his denomination in the real world, or our time, so to speak. But there's interaction through time between, the Templars and Questers. They are in fact one, and he harnesses the history of the Templars in that respect, and later we get to meet some very interesting Templars in the book, some incredible Templars. And not only that, am I okay to say what other groups are in it, Nathan?
Maybe
Nathan.
just touch on lightly one or two of them.
No pressure. It's only going to be a few million people listening.
Well, we've got, shall we say, we've got pirates. This is a very big generalization, but we've got pirates and another order of knights coming up as well, which work together as the main host. And that's as far as I can go with that, I think, Nathan.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I think people are just going to have to get the book quickly. So for those, of course, on the other side of the pond, is that going to be a limitation? You guys will be shipping worldwide, I take it?
Yeah, we're going to be shipping worldwide.
Right.
Yeah, it's available now.
The proceeds of the merchandise and the books, things like that, are going to go towards the creation of bringing this book to light, so to speak.
Yeah, that's correct. We've already started doing some groundwork on a prototype. But as you probably can imagine, building video games isn't a cheap hobby. So we certainly need to have a little bit more budget to play with, so that we can build a prototype and then work towards getting the entire game funded. Generally, a video game can take anywhere from 2 or 3 years to 5 years to develop, and we're looking at putting together a very tight roadmap that would take around 36 months, and would create a single player experience. So it wouldn't be a big online experience where you have maybe 100 players or smaller numbers. It'll be a single player experience, very much an adventure that will echo the sentiment of book one. And we want to also create episodic content inside of what we create. So there's a lot of work to do there, and the pre-orders of Questus book one and all the merchandise that we've created will contribute towards us being able to move a lot faster, but also to being able to get copies of the book printed and to be able to bring it to market faster as well. And so if you pre-order the book now, we're looking at fulfilling all the orders by October time, around the beginning of October. And if you pre-order the book, we'll put your name in the acknowledgements of the book as well. So it's going to be a special first edition where you can be part of it and share the Questus adventure at the same time.
I'll have to get a hardcover then. But you did say something interesting. Questus book 1. Is there going to be a Questus book 2?
Yes.
Okay, good. The long pause had me concerned.
He's already started writing it.
Well, I'm a quarter of the way through Questus 2, and
nice.
That again, I'm not going to give too much away, obviously, but that starts in London, England, where Angus wakes up and in strange circumstances, shall we say, and that's how Questus 2 starts. And of course, the idea is to work with the series, of adventures for Angus MacWilliam and those that he meets during the whole process, and where they go into the back into the realm where people are ideally enlivened through their imagination. But I was just whilst I'm thinking, I've got this actually, it's going back to its special place, shall we say. The sword that Nathan just is looking after works with the key really to Questus 1 and some of the other Questuses, which is this Grail. That's the Grail that that Andrew Sinclair found in Rosslyn Chapel, and that's on the Questus promotional video and on the web pages as well. It's a very special thing, and I'm hoping to get it carbon dated whilst I'm down in the capital in London.
That'd be difficult. Do they take a piece of it? Because you don't want to leave it.
No, I don't want to leave it. No, of course, but
things have a way of disappearing.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to work out how to get it done, but don't worry, I'll be standing by with
for sure,
with a broadsword or something,
So, yeah, right. It's pretty heavy.
We're also
carbon date this.
We're also really interested in what type of materials might have been in the bowls. So, as well as carbon dating, we're interested in doing some archaeobiology work just to see if we can, because this rail is made of wood rather than obsidian or some other material that it would be less likely for molecules to sink down into, whereas with the wooden bowl, based on the type of wood that Shawn thinks it's made of, it's possible that whatever materials have been in there may well have sunk down into the wood and be a little bit more preserved. It could well do. It would
tell a story. I own a medieval human skull. Well, it's 1425, and it had all kinds of sediment underneath it. It came out of a private collection in England. It was in the St. Elizabeth's flood of 1425. And how this little old lady ended up with it. Oh, yeah, she had like a couple hundred of them. Anyway, things find me, and somehow it did. So I did purchase it. And I've often wondered about taking all that sediment up inside of it and carbon dating it, or not carbon dating it, but just doing the biological part of things. Because I can just imagine, much like the bowl, the story would have to tell just of the area. Was it ceremonial in this case? Was it, was it an everyday thing for the people who used it? Like, I just love that whole part of the story, the human part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. When Shawn showed me the ball for the first time, I was just reminded of a book that I read. The last 2 years have blended into each other too much. Somewhere in the last couple of years, I read a book called The Immortality Key about the Eleusinian mysteries and some archaeobiology work that was done there to try and understand, what those ceremonies might have consisted of. And I'm not saying it's the same. It was just, the thought that jumped into my mind when I held the bowl for the first time.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, just the energy from it. But I have to say, the look on your faces when I said I owned a human skull, just everybody kind of went, yeah. Sorry.
I'm interested in the little old lady that had hundreds of them.
I am the caretaker of currently 4. I just parted with one recently, but you know, I am a collector of different things, but there has to be, you know, something to it. They have to need, you know, a caretaker. So things just have a way of finding themselves into the right hands, which is what I believe, and it's the case here with the bowl. How do you think, Andrew, what do you think he would say to you right now, Shawn, if he was alive and, you know, able to see what you've achieved with this and where you want to go with it?
Well, I know how it would start off. It would have started off in his big apartment overlooking the River Thames, and he would say, you know, I would ring the bell down below, and he would open, the buzzer would go, and I would go up in the lift and go straight in, and he would be sat there waiting with a pile of notes on his table and 2 bottles of Chateau Neuf de Pape, which is his favorite wine from France. And we would then start to have a few drinks and discuss plans or strategies. But I can imagine him now, me going in to, you know, overlooking the River Thames there, and him saying, well, finally, Shawn, you know, you seem to have got somewhere, you know, well done. And that would have been it, probably. And, you know,
have a drink of wine.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love that you've somehow managed to bring him in a little bit, you know, into all of this, you know, with tidbits of research. And like how I said that, tidbits, because I know there's lots of research of his.
Well, Andrew, you know, obviously he features in Questus 1 as, you know, the main expert on the Templars, but he fulfills a more supernatural role in actual fact, because he's connected to various artifacts in the book, and he's almost like Gandalf, you know, in Tolkien. He's that type of a the wise one, the modern day sage, if you will. Yes. And you know, if Angus falls on hard times or he staggers, generally speaking, Andrew is there to sort of pick him up, you know. And usually their meetings start, as mine did when I was in London with him, over you know, room temperatured Chateau Neuf de Pape from France, you know.
Right. Oh, I love it. So where do you guys go from here then? Because I mean, Shawn, you're writing, you know, you're into writing book 2. That takes a great degree of research. And Nathan, does that mean that while all of this is happening, you're just sort of doing your thing with the video game? Like, lead us down the process. Whoever wants to go first, round table, jump in anytime.
Nathan.
Well, we have a lot to do, really. So to make a video game, it's a big effort. You know, it's a big creative effort and a technical effort. So we have a lot of stages to go through. So once we make the prototype and our funding's in place, we're going to be able to put a lot of effort behind making the video game and crafting the story. So Shawn's got lots of time to write the second book, and as he's writing the second book, there could be some overlap with the second book and the video game as well, which could make things quite interesting. And we'll have our hands full. I think it's fair to say. But in the immediate future, obviously we're going to be talking a lot about the book with various folks, and really looking forward to hearing feedback from readers, and you know, finding out how much the book resonates with people, and how the message of the book connects to people on a deeper level. And Sean's writing process is fantastic. He's very quick. He's sending me new chapters left, right, and center all the time at all hours of the of the day. So I know that he's very fired up for book 2, but I don't think we've set a specific date for when that's going to be finished just yet. But I do think that it will be quite quick. What do you think, Shawn?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, where does the time go when you're sort of sparking up your creative gift or talent? I guess that's the same for everybody, but the more I've written, the more I am able to convey what I really want to say as a product from my imagination in words, so that when you use a combination of words, that they ping right into the brain of the reader, and he can see or she can see exactly what I'm trying to convey through words. And that's taken quite a long time. I always wanted to write first and foremost, especially when I was, on the Great Lakes shoveling iron ore all day long, from age 17 up to 21, and as well as adventuring all over the Great Lakes and stuff. My hobby at the time was reading Ernest Hemingway or Jack London. It was American literature really that I was interested in, obviously, because I was over there, and that's where it started. But it's not an easy thing to be any creative person, artist, writer, or whatever, and you have to do also, go through the rigors of everyday work, and mine was particularly rigorous, shall we say, on the lakes, because 2 of the vessels I was on, a jack-up gas rig that nearly sank off Sable Island, I was on that.
Wow.
And the SS Canadian Hunter in the early 80s that foundered in a really bad storm on Lake Superior. So
shocker there.
That was a pretty big shocker, and we weren't far off where the ill-fated Edmund Fitzgerald went down. So
problem spot.
Problem spot. Yeah. I was, from an early. What I'm trying to say is that I've had an adventurous existence, which to sweeten the pot, shall we say, of my writing ability, and I've been lucky to be able to use actual journeys and expeditions, and latterly, obviously, in Chile, 2018, where I was picking up great information on the Templars in Chiloé by rowing around different islands. It was foolhardy, really, because it wasn't a boat with an engine. It was just like a Victorian skiff where, if the tide turned against you, you'd struggle to get back to home.
Absolutely, much like they would have bigger vessel, but not far off.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, having been on the ocean and having been on the Great Lakes, they can be quite unforgiving, without a doubt.
There was a lot of adventure in Chile that Shawn told me about, which was beyond the rowing, and there was an adventurer that Shawn told me about who didn't make it out of Chile. So it's great to have Shawn here.
Yeah, good to be back. Yeah. Well, yeah, we wouldn't definitely not want to lose you to the sea. Mind you can be a ghost writer.
Yeah.
Get it? Oh.
Well, yeah. Well, very much like the Chiloé ghost ship, the Kalush, which the legend has it sails under the sea, and gathers victims off beaches and stuff like that. And that was very interesting to me, the Kalush, because it also corresponded with, the idea of escaping Nazi submarines during the last war. Some of them were known to have been seen in Chilean waters. In fact, I believe that there was a refueling base off the coast of South America, where escaping submarines, not just German ones, I think there was some Italian ones as well, that managed to get to South America, after the war. So the idea of the Collusion, the submarine, is like, is this, is this bendable myth, if you see what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I know there's a lot of talk about them going to Rothschild Island, which was not too far from Antarctica, but it'd been a great refueling spot.
Well, and of course that brings us into the Admiral Byrd stuff, which is
absolutely,
and the ice tunnels and what's under Antarctica as well, because obviously it's in South America. It's the tail end of Chile and Argentina, and of course you've got the seas there, and then you've got Antarctica, and that was ping, here we go again, synchronicity. I end up doing a sculpture of the guy that rescued the Chilean naval hero Piloto Luis Pardo, who rescued Shackleton's crew from Elephant Island.
Wow.
So we're going in this direction at the moment. That's as much as I'm at liberty to say that we have some information about Antarctica as well, which is platted into the narrative also. So not just in Questus 1, but it's going to be in other Questus versions of events as well.
Well, again, it's good timing because there's so much attention on Antarctica. People are super interested in what's going on there. So I think any little bit of information or research that you find that you can incorporate into your story would definitely entice the reader.
Absolutely. And it's found out some very, very, very incredible information.
Right. Well, I don't know, guys. So, Nathan, getting back to you, are you guys going to, while you're in development of the game and while Shawn is still writing, are people who maybe make comments about, the story, because they're starting to read now, they might have input. People, I find, when people start reading something and they're learning something, they may also have input as to some knowledge, or they go off on, I've seen people go off and say, oh, I read this in this book. I thought it was amazing. I started delving into it and found this or this. Do you think it'll give you an opportunity just to sort of incorporate new ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. The relationship that creators can have with their audiences these days is just much more of a two-way relationship, and people should, if they read the book and certain things resonate for them, or if they have something that they'd like to, some thoughts that they'd like to share, then they can certainly reach out to us through the Questus Facebook page or through ShawnWilliamson.com. Just use the contact page there, and it's the more the merrier, essentially. The name of the book is Questus, and the little thing that me and Shawn keep talking about every now and then is that there's a quest inside of all of us, and I'd be very surprised if the story that Shawn has written doesn't sort of cajole and make some thoughts and ideas appear along the way. So feel free to share them with us, or to leave comments on a post on social media, and we'll get back to you. We'd love to hear from as many people as possible who've read the book.
And I've noticed you guys also haven't just put up a Questus Facebook group page.
Yep.
I liked something up today, so please tell me it's yours.
Yeah, that's ours.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Okay, good. So that's going to be used, I guess, just to keep people in the loop, or just to give people a place to get a hold of you guys, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be sharing updates about the coming weeks and what we're going to be doing with some of the plans for our collectibles as well. So depending on our pre-orders and the interest we get, we are going to look at creating more merchandise and telling people a little bit more about our story as we go. So you'll be able to follow that through our Facebook page. but also we're going to be creating quite a bit of video content over the next couple of years. So
Very nice.
a lot of that is going to be either through Facebook or through ShawnWilliamson.com or through our Vimeo page. If you want to look us up there, whatever works for you.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Okay, so now, I mean, Shawn, you do have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak. You are also, I know, because I'm also part of, we'll just maybe talk a few minutes about Team Templar.
Yeah, no, I was just going to wish Wayne Murphy and the crew, God's blessings on the journey that I'm involved in with them, and
Yes.
the Prince Henry Sinclair story, and all the things that are happening on that in that fantastic place that Wayne has brought to the world, and it's I can see us being able to work in tandem with Team Templar to bring the Questus story to the USA, and I look forward to more interesting version of events with Wayne, yourself, and Amelia, and the work, and of course Carl Cookson, the great Carl Cookson, and fantastic Hamilton White. We've got a great team. Ken Kieser, many fine minds there, all working in the same direction.
I think so. I know I got a little tidbit of info that I can't say on the air, but we'll get that out. And that comes from me working in the middle of a documentary, which has sort of thrown me back probably about 3 weeks, but I'm catching up slowly. So a little bit of good news on the horizon to share. So while we were on the topic of course, Team Templar, I'm going to do a real quick station ID, and I'm going to play one of Wayne Murphy's Folgers commercials. So that's up to you guys to give me some dang commercials. Why, you ask? Because it not just promotes our sponsor, you can promote yourself. You can tell us who you are, and it will play periodically on some of the segments in front of millions of people, and it sits in the archives forever. So you get to promote yourselves. It's really great advertising. So we are the Outer Realm. You are listening to us on United Public Radio 105.3 FM in New Orleans. We're fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, and of course, Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, who is an award-winning composer who's responsible for our intro and our outro. And we are sitting here with Shawn Williamson and Nathan Newman. We are discussing Shawn's book, Questus, which is going to be fabulous without a doubt, and the video game is going to be just like amazing, I have no doubt. I don't even play video games, but I want to play this one just because of the fact that it's always kind of nice to know when you're you have the background on stuff. It just makes it that much more interesting. So with that being said, I'm going to play. Wayne has actually sent in 3. So it's like, wow, he's very enthusiastic, but he's got his natural commercial voice. And Folgers, by the way, does listen to the show. They are fans of the show. And
good morning, everyone. Wayne Murphy and Shawn Williamson from Team Templar, North America. When it comes to change, we're all about change, especially when it comes to changing history. But there's just one thing that we won't change, and that's the good taste of Folgers coffee in the morning, or anytime, as a matter of fact. A taste that you can count on, just like the history that we plan to change. Folgers is a history of its own that will never change. Have a good day, everybody from Team Templar, North America. Folgers.
Short and simple. He just got that deep radio voice. That's awesome. So I don't know. A lot of people dig these things. So always something to consider. But okay, so what are you, Shawn, aside from writing, you guys have anything in the works? Like, do you plan on doing any? Like I say, going on tour, there's a lot of different, book tours and stuff that you can do. I know here, I mean, in the US, you've got like the Bram Stoker Awards. We've got Writers, Illustrators of the Future, which does a lot of, sci-fi or fantasy sort of stuff. And, they're very, very popular. So is there anything like that out your neck of the woods that you can kind of go on tour with this?
Oh, I think so. Yeah, I think we're planning various venues to do book signings and making the media aware of what we're doing, and obviously improve book sales, get the Questus message out there. And it might not just be limited to this country by the time we finished. I mean, South America is a huge market, and I'd love, I'm speaking kind of off the top of my own head, but it'd be great to go back there at some point to promote the book once we're halfway down the path, shall we say. They have avid readers in South America. I think Brazil's got one of the biggest population readership, in the world. And, of course, you've got Chile, where they publish and, write many great writers, and some fantastic publishers over there as well.
Well, I think especially if you're ending up going to, a country which has really deep Templar roots also, that would be super interesting. I mean, Scotland, France, England. I mean, the Templars came from all over the place. But I think you might awaken a whole other interest in the Knights Templar. I think that the Templars themselves are very misunderstood, and were often, mistaken with Crusaders and such. You're dealing, I mean, with really noble people, and some that, maybe not quite so much, but but I think you would maybe raise awareness, and this might be a really good way to do that, to give them some insight into who they were through your character.
Yeah, I think especially, in South America, and of course Scotland will be one of the first places to start the the physical book launch, or the roadshow, so to speak. And I'm sure that it would be really well received there, and then on to other places. But I think we're interested in some of the esoteric ideas about the Templars regarding their geophysical excavations, their building skills. I mean, a lot of people say, well, they didn't go and do experiments in stone circles, or they didn't do this, and they had no idea. Well, they set off, they spawned, the cathedral building in Europe. Of course they did, and of course he had the boats to be able to go and do it and investigate huge structures, and mentioned in the Bible. There was actually very few knights. There was sergeant at arms and men at arms, and there was ladies in waiting, dames, and of course clerics and Knight Templar priests. Huge. I mean, if you listen to Bob Bryden, the great Scottish historian, and you find out how big the Templar brand was. And it's not just about the knight himself, yet the knight was supported by several other people. So the combined force of the Templars, and also what they were involved in studying, their architects, their builders, their masons, they had an absolutely huge armory of knowledge of how to build in stone. I mean, it'd be stupid not to think that they were not interested in other buildings in stone that they had chance to visit in the Middle East,
Yeah.
So we've got, Yeah, sorry, Michelle. We were just to finalise.
Oh no,
And of course, just to finalise, and of course, the Templar Order that came after the dissolution. You know, that has been alluded to for a long time, and I've done lots of research into that and discussed some of these things with Nathan. But it's, you know, there's so much information out there that it's putting it into a format that's going to be, you know, easy for people to, you know, to understand and get their head round without having to spend, you know, 24/7 at the desk studying this stuff.
I definitely agree with that. And I think there's a lot of people out there who call themselves theorists. And I guess in all technicality, I guess theorist is the only thing you really can go if with a limited. I say there's a lot of information, but it's a lot of the same information. I think you have access to stuff that's never been seen. It's never seen the light of day because you are the caretaker of Andrew's work. He puts some of it out there, and there's other stuff that you have access to that people haven't seen. So it'd be a little bit easier for you to say, no, actually, this is probably more in line with what they were all about. I think there's a lot of people who are taking information online, and it just seems to be layers of the same stuff and are capitalizing on it. And in a way, I think people just aren't getting all the accurate information. It's sort of being plugged in places that maybe it doesn't belong, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of derivative information out there that's embedded in this sort of warrior archetype. And, you know, the stuff that Shawn's shared with me and the sort of conversations we have, it's far outside of that archetype, you know, and I've been really quite surprised in some of the stuff that he shared with me so far. And I think for me, what's really interesting about the approach to Questus is that it's sort of medieval wisdom for today, and there is that sort of Templar history and mystery in there, but it's a modern day setting, and that modern day setting allows Shawn to be able to talk about things through a different lens, and I think that can be a big part of exactly what you just mentioned, you know, being able to share some of these ideas in a more lucid and approachable way.
Mm-hmm. And Shawn, what are your thoughts on that? I guess we're in a day and age where you have to be real cautious just about everything now.
Yeah, I think there's that's one of the things that we're, you know, reluctant to go into at the moment. But
sure,
you know, it's not stuff that hasn't happened during other ages in you know, in the history of man. For instance, we're in very, very similar times at the moment to when the, you know, the medieval, the papal and Spanish Inquisitions were at large, and how they cut down knowledge and anything that they couldn't control. You know, like the fact that, you know, there was machines that were used to navigate and enable vessels to sail all over the planet and stuff. They were seen as, oh, if you've got one of these, then you're a witch. Burn him, you know, burn them, burn her, you know. And that's it, in a way now. It's if you don't conform to the, you know, the narrative of the powerful media agents, then you can fall into that category as well, you know. So and people don't want to engage in it. They want to be able to go to a place where the imagination is, you know, the front runner, not intelligence. Einstein said imagination was greater than intelligence, and that's what Questus does. It opens up issues of existence in a creative and imaginative way. And that, for me, is, you know, is where we need to be at the moment. And of course, we're after a market for what we're producing, and I can see Questus growing exponentially, you know.
Well, I think if you can do it in a way, because who knows, what's cool to talk about now on the onset, and as you're starting, you're just getting into the development of basically bringing this whole thing, making it alive in a sense. I mean, you're saying it might take a couple of years, 3 years. Like, where are we going to be at then? Are you concerned at all that you might have to back up a bit and say, okay, we need to maybe tweak this a little bit as to not draw attention, to the whole censorship laws that may be in place by then?
I think there's some trend lines which are kind of interesting and troubling at the same time. And
Yes.
I think it's important to have opportunities to talk about those things and to be able to discuss them openly. I mentioned the sort of big tech side of things from the last 5 years, but really that's been happening for a long time.
Right.
And there's this sort of digitization of consciousness that's been taking place for a very long time as well, which is
Right.
a huge philosophical concept to be able to discuss. And there's also the mechanization of attention that's been happening through
Yes.
digital tools, which can be used for good, but they have a sickly side as well, if you will.
The yin and the yang, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And having a conscious awareness of that and understanding how it could affect you means that you can navigate those waters more acutely. But one of the huge themes from Shawn's book is this technocratic takeover and what that means, and being able to discuss it in a way which is very creative and very open and approachable. And being able to almost challenge that sort of technocratic oneness concept that's sort of hanging out there in the background at the moment, that some people are kind of aware of and other people, aren't aware of, or don't really know how to discuss because it's such a big concept. So yeah, I think the relevancy of Questus and what Shawn's writing and his take on these concepts is going to be really, really useful and maybe a little bit therapeutic for people along the way as well.
Oh, I have no doubt about that.
Fabulous. Yeah, well put.
Yeah, I have no doubt about that. So in listening to Shawn's tales and having read the book and having tidbits of the next book, I know that with every faith, you end up with a staunch belief, as we're all raised. I always say I'm a recovering Roman Catholic. Yes, people, I know, send me the hate mail. But I believe that we evolve. We're supposed to evolve. We're not supposed to just sit and spin our wheels in the same place. We're supposed to evolve, whether it's within our faith or whether it's outside of the faith, and trying to find a happy medium between both. With everything that you've been learning on this journey, do you feel you're in the right place a little bit, or maybe it's okay to venture out a little bit with what you're learning? Your state of evolution, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
Well, I've thank you for that question as well, and because it's a big question as well. I guess I probably have too long of an answer to it, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. Tell me about your post-traumatic growth, Nathan.
No, I don't mean like dissing the faith or anything.
Fine,
I'm just wondering if you can incorporate it, if there's a way of, because I imagine I've learned a lot just from doing the show. I mean, I've been evolving forever, but you evolve when you hear people with stories like yours, stories like from all walks of life. That's the idea. We move forward. Are you moving forward? Can you incorporate it? Or can you move past it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I see that what I see, the Jehovah's Witnesses as being is, in a way, it was an educational process. It was to break out of what some people refer to as a high control group, and try and understand the psychological effect that it had on you, and maybe continue to have on you after you left, is kind of a microcosm for this concept of what it means to exist in society and how society is ordered. It was just on a different order of magnitude, if you will. So through I love books. I love information, and I've absorbed a lot of it. I think I run some little numbers because I was kind of curious, and I think I'm probably coming towards 10,000 hours of reading very old books on mysticism and esoteric subjects, and looking at secret religions of the world and all that sort of stuff. And it's helped give me a more balanced view of that side of me, essentially, and to be able to understand which parts are useful to integrate and which ones aren't. And the most useful thing that I've learned along the way is to understand your conditioning. If you understand your conditioning and where that came from in your early life, and how that informs how you live your life, how you think, how you behave, and have that degree of self-reflection, then it really helps you to be more balanced in life, and also be more understanding of other belief systems and backgrounds, and being able to be respectful, but also to be open-minded. And a lot of people that go through these sorts of experiences end up being an atheist, and being quite nihilistic, because they've gone through a psychological and a spiritual trauma. And it takes the right type of therapy to even understand that and be able to unpick it and get past it, depending on the experience someone's had. So for me, I never went all the way to atheist. I enjoy science. I like science. I like the study of nature. But I never went all the way to that end of the scale. I might have doubted a higher purpose and ideas along that track in the past, to some extent, just because of the experiences that I've had. But I would say, I'm more sort of agnostic / Gnostic in some of my beliefs.
I'm always a Gnostic. I know. I do.
Yeah, and even that is not necessarily something I'm completely set on. Some of these ideas, I think, are okay to be fluid. If I read a bit of Buddhism, or if I engage in some meditation, then it might teach me something totally new that could be useful to integrate into how I understand the world. So it's taken some time, but I feel a lot stronger as a human being for having gone through the experience of growing up with the Jehovah's Witnesses and leaving it. And some of the mystery around that organization and what they might really be up to is something that I think is going to stick with me for a long time. But it's not necessarily the focus of all my attention, but it's certainly something that's I would say always going to be there in the background in some way, because if you understand your conditioning, you understand that these things don't just disappear overnight.
Yeah, it is. It's not like I could say, I have my beliefs. I'm a very faithful person, but depending on the fan club, that's in the background, that's where it gets difficult, because I do believe in a lot of senses we've been limited to what we've been allowed to really know. And it's a wonderful story when you think about it. It is. It's a wonderful story. I love knowing that there is something greater. I couldn't imagine living life thinking that there was nothing, But what I like about, what you guys said with Questus was that it would be, the story is free of all of that. It's just, one man probably, with his faith and evolving and trying to bring everything in this world together again in a positive way. Restoring faith, I guess, is probably a good way to put it. He slips into this crazy, I wake up in this world and what is all of this? And it's a world that's very, you could go forever with it, right down to when you get into AI and everything that we're living through or will be living through potentially, to be able to slip back and just like, no, God, we have to restore faith. And I think because of where the world is, there's so many in that situation. It's just, I've known people who have lost people, and the first thing you want to do is blame the creator. It's like, oh no, it doesn't work that way. We're all on our paths. We're all on our journeys. And if you have an understanding of what that is, it can be pretty incredible. I always say the world is an incredible place. It's the system that limits us all. So I think reading something that people can relate to and maybe see themselves in a little bit makes them root for the character, but also gives them an understanding. They want to grow with him. They want to evolve with him. When people fall in love with a character in a book, they want to basically, they can envision him. They feel what he's going through. You know, they can almost pick up on emotions. People get really seriously involved in that character. And when you bring them to life on a big screen, you know, that they can actually have a little bit or be that character, you know, while going through this adventure. I think it just, I think that's where the magic really happens.
Absolutely, yeah. It's you know, well, I would say maybe irregular type Christian. Although I have a strong faith, but that's because of you know, I was brought up a Methodist, and later had a couple of experiences, well, where I knew, like when the ship foundered at sea and stuff, and I don't want to go into that too much at the moment, but you then start to see something else outside the framework of our own existence. Like, but when you're in it in a daily capacity, your life, you can't see the wood for the trees, if you see what I mean. It's difficult. You know, you have your, what I call God moments, and that you realize, and then when you start to put it all together in terms of, you know, everybody's always trying to sort of, well, maybe not everybody, but they're always trying to pull down the Bible as, oh, that's really boring. You know, the way that it's written and this, that. The messages in the Bible through numerology, and, you know, the idea of the great complex matrix is all made up of numbers. Actually, you know, it's an indication of divine design. And rather than, you know, it's a realm that I would suggest everybody tries to get into, because we can communicate with God in that respect. And when I read the Bible, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the vision. I know that there's terrible things happen, terrible battles. It is so deep, you know, certain versions of the Bible that you would read, and it resonates actually with us inside our soul. And it's a fantastic thing to have that to go and read, you know, if you're in trouble or whatever, and you don't think you can get out of it, and
gives you comfort.
Yeah. And you know, I you know, and many other great writers as well, and I'm not saying I'm a great writer, because I'm the man that's learning off the great writers, like C.S. Lewis, for instance, and Tolkien.
Oh yes,
you know,
yes.
Many of them were, you know, had a Christian belief, and I'm proud of mine. You know.
Oh, absolutely. I think everything has its place. I prefer personally, like the Old Testament. You know,
exactly,
I just like everything being out in the open. I don't like that people can say, nope, we're just going to hold this back because the institution of it all says, nah, that doesn't need to be out there. We're kidding. The Old Testament's fantabulous. You know, there's so much more in it that made you think, you know. But I think the fact that you can create a story, an adventure, a character that has it in the background, but it, you know, I always say when it comes to spirituality, it's pretty much the same. It's the ideas around it that change. You know, the names, for example. You know, we Christians as well as God, but in the Old Testament, God had a name. You know, Then you've got, and with the Muslim faith, well, it's Allah. Like it changes a little bit, but the idea and the stories pretty much remain, which makes the book very universal. Where it can bring anyone in, and anyone could associate with that, because there is a lot of conflict in the world, with all these different faiths. But one thing about the Templars is they had people from so many different countries. There really is, right? Like it's not just Scotland, just France. It was widespread, and I don't think people realize how widespread it really was. I think Questus is a good opportunity to, like I said earlier, really educate people as you start going along, maybe finding your character in different countries where people be just like, oh wow, they're here. This was a thing, or it's a good way to slide in a bit of education where people can understand it, because there is so much information out there that's just getting lost, because it's the people only meeting on the same stuff, right?
Yeah, there's a writer called Freddie Silver, and I read a book of his around
I love this book.
First Templar Nation, I think it was called.
Yeah. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's got a couple of good research books. Well, to me, if you could put 19 years into a book, absolutely. There's got to be something to that.
Yeah, one of the phrases of that he mentioned around the Templar founding of Portugal was that they created a kingdom, or their intent was to create a kingdom of conscience, and that phrase always stuck out to me. It was this unifying of different belief systems and ideas, and embracing them rather than seeing them as a point of difference.
Yeah, right there. That pretty much says it all. Well, this is going to be the part of the show, because then I got to get into a couple more promos. This is the part of the show where you promote the site, tell people what you have coming up, what you can get on the site, when it's available. Promote.
Great. Shall I go now?
Yeah. Whenever you guys want. Jump in. Your show. I'm just tagging along.
So Questus Book 1 is available for pre-order now. If you visit ShawnWilliamson.com, we have a selection of pre-orders available. You can pre-order a softback or a hardback or a signed copy, or you could order a package. So we have copies of the book paired with collectibles like postcards, bookmarks, Templar letter openers, and the stone sword is something that we're actually in the process of capturing a 3D model of, so we can create a metal letter opener version of it, which is going to be really, really cool. So as we go through that process, we'll post some content online on Facebook and on ShawnWilliamson.com, so you can see what type of work has gone into creating that version of the stone sword. So orders are going to ship by early October, and if you pre-order now, your name will go in the acknowledgements of the book. So when you get a copy of the book, you'll flick all the way through the pages to the acknowledgements, and you'll see your name in there. And we thank everyone for their support of the vision of Questus, and believing in Shawn and his way of telling stories.
Yes, and the new Facebook page, don't forget, go like it up, follow it. Just wait and see what's coming, and questions, comments, anything can be directed to the guys that way. And
absolutely. We'd love to hear from everyone and anyone about Questus and what you've heard tonight. And if you have any questions for Shawn, just visit the website and fill out the contact form, or message the page, the Questus page on Facebook.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing this all with us. I know, like, Shawn's been on, like I said, a few times, and we've got little snippets of Questus, and we're like, what is this Questus thing? When is this going to happen? So this is like pretty exciting. I will pre-order the book. So,
Wow, great.
Yeah, absolutely. Kidding? Now I'm like all over it. I need to know exactly what's going on. I can't be left outside the loop. Can always bring you back on with like full on when it's out there and people are reading it. So I know you're always limited to what you can say, because the idea is you want people to get the book, So with that being said, it makes it really hard to give too much. But in the same respect, I might just want to blurt it out to the world. Anyway, guys, thank you very much. And this will be airing tonight. We will be posting up people's comments and questions that you can actually go into. If you go onto the Outer Realm group page, you can go in, and even it will stream across 8 different platforms. So chat rooms come up from all these different places, but you can definitely go in and check out the comments if you want to answer some questions. The replay will remain, and you'll be able to chime in at that point, see what everybody's had to say and answer directly.
Very cool. Great stuff.
Wonderful. All right. Okay, guys. Thank you, guys. Have a great night. All right. Right. Well, we have come to the end of another segment here of the Outer Realm. And man, it was a really great interview. I am really looking forward to getting this book. And no, I won't go blurt it out to the world. I'm not going to do that. You guys just have to get the book yourselves to do that. Now, if you guys would like to contact us here at the Outer Realm, I am catching up finally. Please go to the Outer Realm contact@gmail.com. The Outer Realm contact@gmail.com is very difficult to keep up with social media. There's just too many messages there. Do not forget the Folgers commercials. I know we're on to, the podcast awards and stuff like that, but really the commercials are a boatload of fun. So please go ahead and get creative, do it. Don't forget to go to podcastawards.com, find us under Best Female Hosted Podcast. And I believe we're also under the Adam Curry category, which is a bit of a surprise. So check us out. Vote. We only have till the end of the month. Tune in next week for the very first time. Christopher Quartino, who is the son of Kathy Lutz, will be discussing his thoughts on the Amityville horror. And not sure, how deep he can get into it, but I think he's got one heck of a story to tell. So I definitely am looking forward to this show. Thursday night, we welcome the return of Micah Dank. And I think he's going to be doing his whole decoding of his astrological research on the Quran this time. So it's definitely going to be fascinating. Tomorrow evening, tune back in to United Public Radio. The Church of Mavis is going to be on at 8 p.m. And The Centralist with Joe Montaldo. You definitely are going to want to check that out, because I'm not political per se, but it's pretty biased, but it's pretty hardcore all at the same time. So check that out. In the meantime, bear with me, but I am going to come up and leave you guys with this. I have to do this very selectively. Okay. And we are good to go, I believe. Okay, excellent. So guys, I will leave you with this. I think. Okay, get me back onto. I love pre-records. They're awesome. All right, I think we're good. This is the business side of things. So, no, apparently this isn't going to be a thing, or is it going to be a thing? It's a thing.
It's time for you to get out and nominate your favorite podcast. There are 5 shows I want you to consider for the People's Choice Podcast Awards, the longest-running premier awards event in the podcasting space, open to shows worldwide. Vote at podcastawards.com to nominate the following shows: Writers and Illustrators of the Future podcast in 3 categories: education, storyteller drama, and art. This show is based on the world-famous Writers of the Future contest created in 1983 by L. Ron Hubbard, and provides advice and tips from contest judges, international best-selling authors, world-class artists, contest winners, and industry professionals for writers and illustrators wanting to take their next step, along with needed inspiration to keep going. The next one is The Centralist, in the category of politics and news. The Centralist is a much different news and political program which is not deemed as opinion news. Listen as Joe Montaldo brings you just the facts from trusted sources, which will allow you, the people, to make up your own minds on the various stories being reported on. The next one is UFO Undercover, in the category of entertainment. This show brings you some of the most revealing and current research that is being done with respect to alien abductions and contact. Host Joe Montaldo has been an abduction researcher for over 35 years and is uniquely qualified to bring you live interviews with some of the most well-known researchers in ufology. The next one is The Outer Realm, in the category of Best Female Hosted Podcast. The Outer Realm is a very popular show hosted by Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, which has millions of listeners each week. They are well known for their laid-back, roundtable style of interviewing. Together, this dynamic duo brings you the best of the best, with guests from around the world who are well-versed within their respective fields of ufology, paranormal, cryptozoology, folklore, and anything else that would be deemed outside the realm of normal. The next one is Chasing Prophecy, in the category of society and cultures. Take a ride down the rabbit hole with Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Iampietro, where each episode brings a roundtable approach to conversations about supernatural phenomena, hidden secret societies, underground bunkers, magical conspiracies, the paranormal, cryptic creatures, aliens, ghosts, legends, and myths from around the world. Chasing Prophecy dives into topics that entice the imagination and seduce the mind, some of which are taboo. So go to podcastawards.com to vote for these 5 shows and any others you enjoy listening to. That's podcastawards.com. Take a moment and go out and vote.
Well, everybody, good night. Tonight we will see you in chat. So, good night.